Hello everyone, Flick here, welcome to another contrast paint video. Not what I had planned, still waiting on those orders I've been mentioning in the last couple of videos. So I thought, rather than just wait, why not do at least something off of my to-do pile? And here we have it. This is a Eliminator from the Shadowspear box set. It's actually one of a second squad that I have to get done, because by themselves I don't think they're super great, but I'm wondering if two piled up just can wreak havoc on enemy characters. Worth a try, probably still not as good as a Vindicator Assassin, but just something a bit different. Anyway, and it's an excuse to paint one where we're going to get another little sample of the Ultramarines blue contrast paint, but also we're going to be working on his camel cloak. Now, I do have one that's been prepared earlier, but this was done in normal paint, just with Macragge blue, and let's see, this was... ooh, Eshin grey, with a little bit of a couple of other tones of grey to try and do like the urban camo effect they've got. Not fantastic, I would say, in this finished version, so we're going to see if contrast paint can do any better. So I think what we're going to start with is the Ultramarine blue, and as you know from the last video we did, Ultramarine blue is a little bit of a weird contrast paint, and someone did point out, it was Lord Psychon, if I remember correctly, to double check the base of the contrast paint. And sure enough, if we just do this real quick, that's a little strange, isn't it? That is a pooling of the paint pigment, I think. I don't know a lot about paint, but that certainly seems to be what it is. And you really have to shake. Like, I don't want to shake it too much on camera. Don't take that out of context. But as you can see, like just after a little shake, it does start to remix. Whereas if you combine that with something like, say, the Blood Angels contrast, doesn't really happen on that one. The black one, it hasn't happened. On the grey, it has. Like you can see, like there's a definite tonal shift in the colour on that Basilicum Grey. Even the Playbear Flesh is a little bit like that. So I think that just means like the longer that contrast paint has sat, the more you should shake it before you use it. Doesn't seem to happen with all of them, like there's Snakebite Leather. It's not got any kind of pooling yet. But maybe that has something to do with the inconsistent finish we had last time when we were doing the Phobos Armour Lieutenant. So to get started, yeah, I'm going to shake this like nobody's business off camera, then we're going to apply the Ultramarines blue. Then before we do any other things with contrasts, what I'll have to do is I'm going to apply some normal paint in like the camel pattern on, just straight onto the cape, and then we're going to go over it with a different contrast once that's dry. So let's get started. So a little bit of drying time later, here's what we have so far. On top of the Eshin grey that you saw me do during the time lapse, I waited until it dried and then did a little bit of overlapping Storm Vermin fur, which is right there, on the blotches as well. Again, this is to kind of try and create a urban camo look once the contrast goes over the top. It's going to be my dog making a weird noise in the background. It's going to be Basilicum grey for the cloak that we do next, and probably at the same time we'll just put on contrast Black Templar on all of the gun, although we'll also then, after the fact, use some silver to highlight like the barrel and the scope and such like, but we'll just do a nice layer of black. Also probably Blood Angels red and Skeleton Horde on the Purity seal in there, and if you can just about see next to his leg there, he's got like some pouches. Probably just apply a little bit of either grey or black, or maybe even both, to them as well, and then grey as well for the stone he's standing on. But the Ultramarines blue needs a little bit longer to fully dry. It still looks blotchy to me, but not necessarily as bad. It's hard to tell until it's fully dried, but we'll judge after the next step once we get the cape and the gun done, and maybe the purity seal. Let's get started. So as always, there is still some drying to do, but this is with the Basilicum Grey contrast and Black Templar applied, as well as just a little bit of the Skeletal Horde and Blood Angels Red on the Purity Seal. Not 100% sure about the camo on the vest, or the cloak rather, whether or not it's coming out as good as I'd hoped. It might be better than the just flat colouring that's on the one that was done in normal paint. We'll do a proper comparison once this is entirely finished. Obviously got to let the grey and the black dry, then it'll just be a case of applying silver to the gun, a little bit of silver to the joints and the armour, a little bit of brown for the belt on his leg and where the purity seal's hanging, and the tiniest bit of gold on the section of his pauldron that's just appearing there, and there's a little badge there that's holding his cloak together, and silver for the mask, and then it's going to be a little bit of moot green for like his kind of splinter cell visor and also the scope on the rifle. So going to let this dry now for a little bit, and then we'll be back with a finished model to have a proper assessment of. So a little bit later, here we have the finished Eliminator, more or less. And just for comparison's sake, let's bring in the one that was done in normal paint, just to try and compare. I think it's going to be as it is with most things. It's a matter of preference, which, as I accidentally knock over one of my paintbrushes, which camo cloak style you prefer. I would say this one looks a bit more like actual urban camo. This one looks more like a rain slicker kind of thing. But again, it's personal preference. In terms of the finish on the Ultramarines blue contrast, I think it did do a little bit better. Harder to tell on this model because there is so little of his actual armour showing compared to the cloak, and the guns in the way obviously, and the belts and such. But it's also worth mentioning, if we get this one out of the way, while I've been doing this one on camera, I've been doing the other Eliminator from the same box, or rather the same set, in contrast as well. So these are both done in an attempt to be more or less identical in contrast paint. This is the one I was doing off camera, this is the one I've been doing on camera. Again, basically just trying to get the same finish, because as I said at the top of the video, I have a squad that's needing doing. Still got the Sergeant to do obviously, but these are the two grunts. I specifically made these ones have the same heads because that's my favourite head for the Eliminators. And as you can see, their camo cloaks kind of match up. Would they blend in with buildings? They're supposed to be giant Primaris Marines anyway, so it's a bit hard to believe based on that alone. So this was not what I had planned today to do this video on. Maybe just bring them forwards and put the painted one behind like that. If he kind of fits, he can kind of fit. But it was something I needed doing, and I thought it'd be another good chance to try out the Ultramarines blue contrast. Not sure, not going to commit to anything for what we're doing next, because as always I'm still waiting on contrast paint orders. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this helps you make some decisions for your own contrast models, either just to stay clear and not use them for these, or to use them because they're quick. Either way, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the future for more videos. Until then, ta-ta for now.